All right, so we have the video footage I'm going to be sharing with you of President Donald Trump announcing the $2,000 tariff checks that are going to be going out to millions of Americans. I'm going to play this for you here in just a second. Now, this is coming, and we're seeing headlines all across the news media outlets that President Donald Trump said $2,000 stimulus checks. But people are wondering, what is this going to mean for inflation? What is this going to mean for our economy? Let me know your thoughts. Should we get $2,000 checks? If you think so, put yes. Or do you think that this is going to be an issue and cause more problems than be a solution? If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts. Should we get a $2,000 check to go out to low-income and middle-income Americans? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're going to watch the video footage. And also, if you haven't already heard, overnight we heard that the Senate passed that bill to fund the government. It's now going to be moving on to the House. We're hearing that that could come to pass by Wednesday. We could see the government officially open up. Now, when the government opens up, there's a lot of stuff that we have in the works here. Take a look at this. Social Security bill may increase benefits by $200 per month. Yet another bill is being proposed to help increase Social Security. So we're going to see that coming as well. And also, for those of you that are worried about traveling, well, take a look at this. Airlines warn that flight cancellations are going to be continuing even after the shutdown ends. They're warning that things are still going to be chaotic. It's going to take them some time to adjust. Now, we're going to dive into the stuff about the $2,000 checks. And as you know, I shared with you yesterday and the day before. Take a look. November 10th, Trump had said all the money that's left over from those $2,000 payments are going to be made to low and middle income Americans, USA citizens, from the massive tariff income pouring into our country from foreign countries, which will be substantial. It'll be used to substantially pay down the nation's debt. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And the day before that, he had said people that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are the highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place, and a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. So again, people saying, is he suggesting this? Is this a recommendation? It could be nice. No. He is now saying in the last 24, 48 hours, you will get a $2,000 check. Now, we're going to get into all the details because people are saying, I thought Congress has the power of the purse. Doesn't this need to be issued by Congress? Trump is coming out and saying you need to get these tariff checks. We've got so much money pouring in. We're hearing that the courts right now are deciding whether or not this is even legal. What's the legality behind the president issuing these tariffs and then issuing checks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But we're going to dive into all the details. I'm going to play for you the video footage. So regardless of what happens, you're going to see it for yourself right now. Donald Trump saying we're going to be sending out $2,000 checks. Now, if you like the sound of that, you like Trump on the economy, you like what he's doing with tariffs, you like the suggestions and the things that the Trump administration is doing right now, drop a 47 in the comments for support for Donald Trump. If you appreciate all the things that he's been doing to help the United States put America first, make America great again, drop a 47 in the comments. So I'm going to dive right in, share with you the latest. I got video footage for you. They're going to be discussing what's going on with this and also what Trump had to say just yesterday, November the 10th. Today is November the 11th. I'm going to get you the latest. And if you appreciate these updates, do me a quick favor. It just takes a second. Helps out the channel a ton live while we're on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up like button. I see we got over 1,500 people on with me live. If I could get half of the room to hit the like button, we could get that up to 700. If you don't see it there yet, you haven't hit the like button, please do so. Helps out a ton. And to stay up to date, whether we get checks or not, whether there's Social Security increases or not, whatever happens, I will keep you up to date. It's totally free to subscribe and stay up to date so that way you see my videos as they come out. Pretty much doing daily updates for you guys. But with that being said, let's take a look at the video footage so you can hear it for yourself. President Donald Trump on $2,000 checks, tariff tips, dividends going out to the American people.
Them down. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble, as they were for many years. That's why we owe $38 trillion. And one of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. So we're doing a lot of good work. The numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country. And nobody thinks it's going to be reversed. I think we had a very good court case. As you know, it's before the Supreme Court right now. But if that were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very easily. But this is trillions of dollars we're talking about in terms of the tariff income and all the investment income that's come into our country. We have more than, I would say right now, more than $18 trillion. The biggest number ever is a tiny fraction of that for any country. China, the United States, the biggest number ever. If you look at the past administration, Biden, he did less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We're over $18 trillion. By the time my first year ends, we're going to have over $20 trillion of investment coming into the United States. It's unheard of. We have AI factories. We're leading China by a lot. We have cars and, car plants coming in by more than we've ever had built before. All of that would go away if we lose the tariff case. So all of it would go away. So they're not giving the right numbers. There would be an economic disaster. It would be a national security disaster if we lost the case in the Supreme Court. Daniel?
Yes. This is an idea that you've been talking about for months. This is going to directly and positively impact millions of Americans. Why was this important for you to do, and when can Americans expect that?
So I've been talking about it for a long time, the dividend to people that, have suffered under the Biden administration. So Biden had the highest inflation in history, and we now are at a very low point. We're going to be hitting 1.5% pretty soon. So we're at a low point, and he was a high point. We did that. Food prices are way down. It's all coming down. And the biggest decrease, of course, is energy. And, as goes energy, goes everything else. Because when energy comes down, the oil, the electric, I think you're going to see $2 gasoline or something very close to that. In fact, we're already in the twos. But I think you're going to be seeing very soon $2 gasoline. That's like the equivalent of a massive tax cut. But in addition to that, the great big beautiful bill gives you a very, very big tax cut. And then you have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime for the middle income and for even, frankly, anybody. But you have no tax, and the no tax on tips has turned out to be a tremendous thing. But when you think no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our seniors, it's the great big beautiful bill, which has been mischaracterized, but now people they don't want to talk about it because it's so good, the enemy, because it's so good for everybody. It's the greatest piece of legislation ever passed in the history of our country in terms of size. And hence they call it the big beautiful bill, or the one big beautiful. I call it the great big beautiful bill. It's an amazing bill for the middle class. It's an amazing bill for jobs. We've never passed anything like it. And in my first administration, so we had the greatest economy. Everything was good, but we're really outdoing it this time because we have investments coming in largely because of tariffs. And I think because of November 5th, the election result. But we have investments coming in like we've never had before.
The president on Syria.
Please, behind you. Okay.
There you have it, you guys. So, man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Donald Trump talking about those tariff tips, checks, dividends, whatever you want to call it, saying that Americans, they're going to be getting that here very soon. And like I said, that is why we're seeing this. He was asked when. He didn't give a specific date or time, but he said that right now there's money pouring in. And the concern was about inflation. Let me know your thoughts. Are you concerned that these checks will be inflationary? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts. But right now we're going to hear a commentary on this from Fox as well, as they discuss this in detail. As you saw, the president saying that he wants to send out $2,000 checks to all Americans. And then after that, they're going to use it to pay down the debt. But there's concerns about these checks going out. Let me know your thoughts. And right now, we're not even sure yet. We're waiting to see if he's going to be allowed to even do more tariffs in the way that he has been doing it. The legality behind all of it. As you know, they're trying to say that the tariffs are used as a means to balance the trade between various nations. They're saying it should not be weaponized and it shouldn't be a source of income. And they're saying that the president shouldn't even be authorized to be able to have this type of power, possibly, that this might need to go through Congress yet again. So we're going to see, and you heard him say that if the Supreme Court decides that he cannot do this, that it would be devastating. We're hearing there would be some pretty incredible repercussions, that it would essentially take the tariff income down to half. There would be companies that would need to be paid back money. And so this could go really, really bad if we hear the courts decide something different. We will see. But let's go ahead and take a look at this, and you can hear more updates about what's going on with the tariffs and a $2,000 check.
We heard about the DOGE dividends. What about tariff dividends? The Treasury collected almost $200 billion in tariff revenue in the fiscal year 2025 that ended in September. Now, President Trump wants to cut Americans a check, writing on Truth Social over the weekend that low and middle income Americans will receive $2,000 payments from the tariff income, and the rest will be used to help pay down the national debt. This is pending a decision from the Supreme Court, which just days ago cast doubt on the tariff legality or the use of power to impose these tariffs. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says a dividend can come in a lot of different ways.
The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
I love how the Treasury Secretary spun that little gem. He's like, well, it's not a check. It's just a tax cut that you already got. That was back in July.
Right. But the president does sound like he's talking about a check, if I'm not mistaken from reading that Truth Social. And I think that he realizes that if you go the way of Bessent and try to explain it that way, there are going to be people that aren't touched by that, and they're going to feel like they were left out of it somehow, or that they got the short end of the stick. And so all of a sudden he's coming out with these dividend checks for low and middle income. And I'm thinking to myself, this is really interesting, as we're waiting to hear what the Supreme Court's going to do on this. After we listened to oral arguments last week, I didn't really think that the court was that positive on keeping tariffs in place in the same structure and form that they currently exist in. And then we started having the conversation, well, what would we do with the money? How would you give it back to people? This, to me, sounds like a way for the president to do that before the court tells him what to do, which gives him more power and more control over the narrative as it is unfolding here. I don't know what the Supreme Court will do, how they will rule on this particular case, but I always think President Trump is a few steps ahead of what is going to happen. I think they're already thinking about plans on rewriting these tariffs under different laws to be able to keep them in play if the court says that they're not allowed to. But this, to me, sounded like, you know what, I'm going to go spend this money before they tell me. And he talks about paying down the national debt with what's left over. I think, Taylor, I know you're in this camp. I would have liked to have him take the whole $200 billion and pay down the debt.
So, and that's where I am. Super, super cold take. Everyone hates me for this. I would not be handing out more stimmy checks, especially, let's say you even argue that a tariff is a tax on a consumer, or corporations are passing on the extra cost to the consumers. We've tried this. We did this under Biden. Stimmy season has got to come to an end. I do not want government money that they're taxing to then give to me. $2,000 is tons of money and would absolutely help tons of families. But I don't want to be relying on government for a check, even though it sounds so tangible. If you get a check in the mail with Trump's name on it, sounds great.
Inflation.
No.
Right?
Inflation.
We're going to just inject all that money. People go out. Charles Payne was talking about it the other day. They spend.
That experiment for stimmies, it doesn't work.
I agree with you 100% on the economics, but for the politics of it, I think for everyday Americans, what happens in Washington is so far removed. This makes it tangible, as you said. It brings it home, and it's a physical representation, or digital, because it comes in direct deposit, that what is happening with the trade wars. Why are we doing it? It's a patriotic refund in some way. But I agree with you 100%. We should not be spending money we collected over here when we have a big debt that we still have to pay down. Every last penny. We've talked about this. You're a saver. You use that to get yourself ahead, you got to do that as a country as well. We need fiscal discipline. But this could point to, you bringing it, we talked about it on the break, is it because the president's afraid of his economic approval rating, right? Affordability, that buzzword, won the Democrats a lot of seats. How do you make life sound like the Republicans are making life more affordable?
You know what the president is doing, which I like, though, is I feel like he's shifting his focus back to the economy. I'm not a huge fan of the $2,000 dividend because we are running a $1.8 trillion deficit just this year. This money that we're getting from tariffs isn't even covering interest on the debt, a point you make all the time, Dagan. But what the president is saying, what he's saying by this is, I know that I've got to deliver results for the American people because that's why they voted for me. He's done a lot of great things abroad. He's done a lot of great things in other policy areas, but he knows his bread and butter is the economy and people feeling that in their wallets. And I think there's a sense that America hasn't quite felt it the way they want to or need to yet. So what I hear Scott Bessent doing, and I agree with you, Dagan, he's massaging the issue in that interview. But I think what he's trying to say is there's juice in place in the Trump agenda that people are going to start feeling as they come into 2026. And I think he's just trying to point people ahead to that. Now, does that work in politics? I don't know. I think people want to feel it now. But I do think I see an administration pivoting back to the economy after doing a lot of good things other places. And that can't come a minute too soon.
Yeah, I agree. But where do you get the most impact, right? Again, I'm not arguing for these. But are you going to get a big impact on paying down the deficit with $200 billion payment? No. Are you going to get a big impact with going to tens of millions of Americans with a $2,000 payment? I think so. And I think this is a calculated political and economic move.
I think they took stock after last Tuesday's election, and they thought about, Brian, policy-wise, how fast the spokes in the wheel are coming together for people. And they thought that a little injection like this would remind folks that, we've got your back until everything kicks in. But I still agree with you, Taylor. I don't like it.
President Trump, as of last week, was 25 points underwater on just inflation. And so there is that we need to turn the talk into the walk. And it's the talk of, the Atlanta GDP now says how much the economy is going to grow in the third quarter. But
3.8%. Yeah.
Right. But people go, but this is the walk.
Ironically, this will lead to more inflation, though, to your point, right?
That's right.
You're trying to fix the problem.
I'm not advocating for it, but I certainly understand President Trump's thinking behind this.
Agreed.
But I always thought that the tariff revenue was brilliant from an economic perspective because it's hidden and it collects revenue from people who pay no federal income tax. Because the bottom half of federal income taxpayers in this country pay virtually nothing. They only pay $63 billion total in all of the federal. They only pay 3% of all federal income taxes. So it's a way to collect some revenue from people who don't pay any federal.
Also an argument you can't make at the Supreme Court, however. If you made that argument, you would lose there.
Yeah, exactly.
There you have it, you guys. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. You see a lot of fiscal hawks on that panel saying, no, don't take that check. It's going to be inflationary. Just use it to pay down the debt. That's where we currently have the issue. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should they take some of that money and send out $2,000 checks? If you think so, put 2,000 in the comments. If you think no, pay down the debt, and you are also a fiscal hawk and you think we should not be sending out $2,000 checks, it's going to mess up the economy and spark more inflation, then put debt in the comments. Put the money towards the debt. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think? But again, we're hearing that Donald Trump has been putting out these Truth Social posts, and I just shared with you his announcement coming out yesterday from the White House. I think this actually came out while I was sharing with you his post from earlier that morning, where he has announced that he wants to send out those $2,000 checks. And he said, you're going to get checks. He made it very clear. We saw Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, had said, well, maybe he meant it like you're going to get it back in the form of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. And no, Trump came out again and made it very clear, and then made this announcement in the White House saying, I'm talking about I'm talking about checks to the American people in the form of $2,000. So made it very clear. Now, while this all is going on, we're also hearing that the government is on the verge of reopening. Government shutdown updates. The House is going to be returning after the Senate had passed a government bill last night. Now, the House Republicans said that a vote could come as early as Wednesday. And when that opens up, we're going to be looking at also a bill to increase Social Security payments across the board by $200. And they're also warning, watch out for cancellations still taking place on airplane flights. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this, because once this opens up, then we could also be potentially looking at legislation for those $2,000 checks. Let's get an update as to where things are at in the government. Let's go ahead and take a look here.
First, we head to Washington, where the government is now on the verge of reopening after a late-night Senate vote. Let's get to Madeline Rivera, who's been tracking all the action overnight. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, good morning, Carly and Todd. After 41 days, the light is finally at the end of the tunnel. The Senate voting 60-40 to pass a bill that will fund the government through January 30th. It also includes year-long funding bills for Congress, the Agriculture Department, and the military. But it does not include a deal on Obamacare subsidies, which is what Dems have been fighting for all along. Republicans are promising a side deal, a separate vote in December on a health care bill. The same 8 Democrats who voted to break the filibuster on Sunday stuck with Republicans. Senator Rand Paul was the only Republican to vote no. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is promising to fight on as the bill heads to the House.
Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats over the last 7 weeks have waged a valiant fight on behalf of the American people. And I'm not going to explain what a handful of Senate Democrats have decided to do. That's their explanation to offer to the American people. What we're going to continue to do as House Democrats, partner with our allies throughout America, is to wage the fight to stay in the Coliseum.
A growing list of House Democrats are now urging Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to step aside, saying he's failed to keep his caucus together to reject the bill. Congressman Rashida Tlaib saying, in part, the Democratic Party needs leaders who fight and deliver for working people. Schumer should step down. Meantime, the president says Republicans are considering a way to stop this shutdown stalemate from happening again.
How do Republicans avoid this shutdown saga from reoccurring on January 30th when this deal ends?
Well, we're trying to put in a bill, as you know, the bill or a bill, that you can never do that again. You can't just shut down the government because you're trying to renegotiate a deal that you didn't.
The House is expected to consider the Senate bill tomorrow, meaning final passage will probably happen late tomorrow night or Thursday morning. Carly and Todd.
Maybe while we are on air, if it happens early Thursday morning, we'll be watching. Maddie Rivera, thank you. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman was one of the Democrats who crossed the aisle to reopen the government. He's going to be on Fox and Friends later this morning.
Let's bring in Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick. Congressman, good morning to you. On the scheduling front, can we expect the government to officially reopen tomorrow?
I sure hope so. I'm looking forward to getting back to work and actually doing the people's will. I'm excited about it, and it's about time.
Okay, so one unnamed House Democrat characterized the deal this way. I feel like Republicans took our first and second born child, and we got a bundt cake in return. So a lot of Democrats are unhappy that their fight over health care is over for now. What are your reflections on the past 40-plus days, and anything we can take away from this?
Well, it really worries me that the American people get the wrong message. I want to make sure that everybody realizes this is unprecedented. This has never been done in the history of America, where they actually shut down the government over a clean CR, something the Democrats had actually agreed on historically on funding at their COVID levels, something they voted for, something they also realized would not be permanent. They could never get this when they're in the majority, and they want to get this in the minority. If we gave in to them, This would change the way we did government forever, that you could rule from the minority. It's absolutely absurd. I'm glad we're past it. I hope it never happens again. I don't want to get rid of the closure vote, but what I would like to see is when we do something like this, if they do shut down the government again, that we fund the military, that we fund people who are actually working. People who don't work, fine, go home and don't get paid until you come back to work. But everybody's going to get paid. We know this already. So let's quit playing games and do the people's work.
I think you nailed the most important point of all of this. The Democrats had no leverage. You had a president who was not budging. You had a Republican Senate that was not budging. And so this was going to happen one way or another. Thank goodness for the American people that it is over sooner rather than later. Want to get your thoughts on this because today is, of course, Veterans Day. You are a Marine Corps helicopter pilot, Navy commander as well. What is your message on this Veterans Day, Congressman?
Well, first of all, thanks to all those who have served. It's about 5.5% of all of the American population has served at one time or another. Less than 1% is actually active duty. I was with my fellow Marine Corps brethren last night. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm still dressed as. In Tun Tavern, Philadelphia is where we were born. 250 years ago, that brotherhood is still as strong as ever. It was great to be with my brothers and sisters at arms. Don't forget them, though. Their suicide rate is still over twice that of the American population. Make sure you're reaching out, that you're not just plugged in today, but always throughout the year. Check in on your buddies. Make sure we do the right thing for these people who understand sacrifice better than most.
Well, we thank you for your service every day, but especially today, as you're still in your bow tie from last night. It's a good look. It's a good look.
Night.
There you have it, you guys. And again, yes, happy Veterans Day to all those that have served. Thank you for your service. God bless the soldiers. God bless America. Thank you. And let me know your thoughts. Do you think we're going to get a $2,000 tariff check? Now, as I shared with you, the news as it broke, we had heard in the last 48 hours, Donald Trump saying that you're going to get a check. He released that Truth Social post saying, you can see here that people who are against tariffs are fools, and at the very end of it, a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people. It's going to get paid to everyone. We also saw him then yesterday, I shared this with you, come out again and say all the money left over from the $2,000 payments made to low and middle income USA citizens from the massive tariff income pouring into our country from foreign countries, which will be substantial, will be used to substantially pay down the national debt. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then, as I shared this with you yesterday, we saw him make an announcement at the White House about this. And let's play the clip one more time for those of you coming in a little bit late so you can see it for yourself.
No, at some point we're going to be bringing them down. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble, as they were for many years. That's why we owe $38 trillion. And one of the things we're going to do, we're going to issue a dividend to our middle-income people and lower-income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing. So we're doing a lot of good work. The numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country. And nobody thinks it's going to be reversed. I think we had a very good court case. As you know, it's before the Supreme Court right now. But if that were ever reversed, people are saying, oh, it's $1 billion. Some people said, oh, it's $2 billion. Well, that obviously we can handle very easily. But this is trillions of dollars we're talking about in terms of the tariff income and all the investment income that's come into our country. We have more than, I would say right now, more than $18 trillion. The biggest number ever is a tiny fraction of that for any country. China, the United States, the biggest number of, if you look at the past administration, Biden, he did less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We're over 18 trillion. By the time my first year ends, we're going to have over $20 trillion of investment coming into the United States. It's unheard of. We have AI factories. We're leading China by a lot. We have cars and, car plants coming in by more than we've ever had built before. All of that would go away if we lose the tariff case. So all of it would go away. So they're not giving the right numbers. There would be an economic disaster. It would be a national security disaster if we lost the case in the Supreme Court. Daniel?
President,
can we
back to that tariff
Yes.
rebate, this is an idea that you've been talking about for months. This is going to directly and positively impact millions of Americans. Why was this important for you to do, and when can Americans expect that?
So I've been talking about it for a long time, the dividend to people that, have suffered under the Biden administration. So Biden had the highest inflation in history, and we now are at a very low point. We're going to be hitting 1.5% pretty soon. So we're at a low point, and he was a high point. We did that. Food prices are way down. It's all coming down. And the biggest decrease, of course, is energy. And, as goes energy, goes everything else. Because when energy comes down, the oil, the electric, I think you're going to see $2 gasoline or something very close to that. In fact, we're already in the twos, but I think you're going to be seeing very soon $2 gasoline. That's like the equivalent of a massive tax cut. But in addition to that, the great big beautiful bill gives you a very, very big tax cut. And then you have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime for the middle income and for even, frankly, anybody. But you have no tax, and the no tax on tips has turned out to be a tremendous thing. But when you think no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our seniors, it's the great big beautiful bill, which has been mischaracterized. But now people they don't want to talk about it because it's so good, the enemy, because it's so good for everybody. It's the greatest piece of legislation ever passed in the history of our country in terms of size. And hence they call it the big beautiful bill, or the one big beautiful. I call it the great big beautiful bill. It's an amazing bill for the middle class. It's an amazing bill for jobs. We've never passed anything like it. And in my first administration, so we had the greatest economy. Everything was good, but we're really outdoing it this time because we have investments coming in largely because of tariffs. And I think because of November 5th, the election result. But we have investments coming in like we've never had before.
The president on Syria.
Please, behind you. Okay.
There you have it, you guys. And again, let me know your thoughts. Are we going to see checks, $2,000 checks? If you think so, put 2,000 in the comments. If you think no, put no. Let me know what you think. But we're hearing that the government, it is about to reopen. They're saying likely Thursday. They're going to take up the vote on Wednesday, tomorrow. And we're hearing one of the things that's going to come up now is if there is potentially a $200 per month increase for Social Security. There is a piece of legislation that has been introduced. Also, we're hearing the airlines coming out 2 hours ago are warning flight cancellations are going to continue regardless of whether they get it open or not. And we're going to be seeing if we get some checks, what's going to be happening. Stay tuned to the channel. I'll let you know either way what's going to be unfolding here, whether you're going to get $2,000 checks or not, whether there's going to be a $200 per month increase to Social Security or not, whether the government opens, whatever unfolds. I'll be sure to report it here on the channel so that way you know the latest that is going on. And if you appreciate that, do me a favor, take a quick second, hit that thumbs up like button. As you know, I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it, play the video footage. I put the dates, everything, so you know that this is the latest. You can rest assured and know that this is the newest stuff coming out as of today, November 11th, 2025. If you appreciate that, hit that like button. Subscribe to stay up to date, and I'll keep you up to speed on everything. And also, as you guys know, before we hit the new year, we're going to be launching that new channel, the Steve Ram Audio Bible, King James Version. It is the Holy Bible, KJV, Steve Ram, Monica Ram. Keep an eye out for that. We're about to hit 1,000 subscribers. Going to be launching it here very soon. You'll be able to hear the Bible read in my voice for those of you that not only appreciate hearing clear, concise news from Steve Ram, also the Bible as well. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.